When you come to church, you come with an intention of meeting your Father. If you don't do that, that day is a waste. So you have to fight and never leave the house of God the same way you came. If there are things that are beating you, there is no way you come and meet the King of Kings. You know, that is why we lose joy. Because we speak so highly of God, and yet we live lives that are contrary to what we speak about. So that is why ukikuja hapa, you fight, you ensure that you don't settle for anything less. Otherwise, you will find that church will become routines, because what you are experiencing and what you speak about this God are two different things. Every day, things are getting worse and worse and worse, and Christians are becoming comfortable. People who remain committed to their vows regardless of what they face. To the point of death, you become unwilling to give up on the costs that you have. A warrior does not give up because of pressure or circumstances. We learned about Shammah and the rest. When the rest backed off, you found that Shammah kept his ground, was willing to fight to the very end. That is the attitude of a warrior. God hates people who make empty vows. When you make a vow, but your heart is not in it, he despises such things. If you read the book of Ecclesiastes chapter 5 from verse 1, he says that be careful when you go before the house of God. When you make commitments, when you make prayers, be very careful. Because God hates people who make empty vows. You come to speak just to show, but your heart is not committed to that. That's why we have Christians who are lazy, non-committed completely. They only serve God based on their desires and their feelings. But when things go wrong, they cannot be able to commit to that. That is the challenge that Christianity is facing today. And you imagine, it is not a surprise. The Bible predicted that it would be happening today. Brethren, if you don't make a commitment, you're being swept away. And this is what Esau found himself doing. Because he gave up his inheritance for carnal things. He gave up commitment to things that are important and ran after things that are useless. This is the same thing with Judas. You give up Jesus for 32 pieces of coins. Commitment is gone. It is until uvuke the other side of eternity ndio unatana unasema, kumbe I am a fool. What was I doing? But by that time it's too late. By that time you have wasted time. God is a God of process. He takes you through things that are hard to shape your character, to prepare you for things that this world cannot be able to give you. But if you don't commit to the process, you find yourself giving up to the commitment. Why would you come to church just to jump and to dance? You sweat, but ndani you're empty. What benefit is it to you? Why do we close our eyes? You speak words and you remain empty. And you're still, why don't we get desperate? You get to the place getting desperate. You say, nimechoka na kukuja hapa normally. Commit. You know that is a sign of commitment. Because commitment is not that things will get better every day. There are times you wake up, you find it is hard. But when you persist and you push, it shows that you have an inner desire that overcomes the outward circumstances. That's commitment. That's what will keep us to be able to get to the end. And you say, I have fought a good fight. I have kept the faith and I have finished the race. And compromise is quick acceptance of standards that are lower than the desirable standards. You are quick to accept things that are lower than the desirable standards. This is why you find that Esau was willing to give up his inheritance for the sake of soup. Bible says that Moses was not willing to give up the promise of Christ for the riches of Egypt. By faith, he left everything and he went to the desert. That is commitment. Compromise makes these things that seem to glitter, they make them so big and important than the real things you seem to despise. That when you lower the standards, you're harming yourself. Compromise is against you. It is not to our benefit. The word acceptance, that you mean you accept, It means that you agree or you have an attitude of accepting things that are lower. It is not an event. It's not one-time thing. That's why ukiona mtu mwenye ana compromise, it is something you see repeated in their lives. Any person with compromise, he ends up becoming frustrated because the things you're speaking are mouth, but they're not meant in their heart. Brethren, that is what warriors must become. You commit. In thick and in thin, you commit. That's what Christianity means. That's why Jesus tells his disciples, these are people he loves. His mother and his father are, his mother and his brothers are part of the group, the 120. But he tells them that anyone who wants to come after me, you must be ready to take up your cross. Hakukuwa na lightenisha. He tells them that birds of the air have nest, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. That if anyone takes the plow and keeps on looking back, it's not fit for my service. It is a place of commitment. Proverbs chapter 6 verse 16 to 19. Solomon writes, there are 6 things that the Lord hates, 7 that are detestable to him. He says, 1, haughty eyes, 2, a lying tongue, 3, hands that shed innocent blood, 4, a heart that devises wicked schemes. Now listen to what he says, number 5. Feet that are quick to rush into evil. That is a compromiser. There is ease of falling into lower standards, to sin. There is that ease of compromising. These are things that God hates. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 verse 3. Bible says that don't let anyone deceive you. This is Paul writing to the church. He says that in any way, for that day will not come until the rebellion occurs. If you have KJV, you can put it so that they can see. That word rebellion is apostasy. Giving up ideals. It's not that Christians are going to walk away from churches. It's that people are going to give up, compromise the standards that God has set. So 2 Timothy chapter 4 verse 3. It says, for the time will come, which is now, where we are living now, when men will not put up with sound doctrine, which is true teachings, biblical teachings. Instead, to suit their own desires, because they are living under lower standards. Hawa ni watu wenye wanataka vitu zinawafurahisha. Listen to what he says. They will gather around them a great number of teachers to say what their itching ears want to hear. They will turn their ears away from the truth and aside to myths. But keep your head in all situations. This is commitment. It's telling Timothy, commit. Keep your head in all situations. Endure hardship. Do you know why he's saying that? It is not easy. Paul knows it is not easy to commit, but he's telling Timothy, endure the hardship. And he says, do the work of the evangelist, do your ministry. And then he finishes by saying, discharge all the duties of your ministry. There is no other way out. Brethren, there are things that weaken the life of a Christian. Now, I find today to be very weak believers, weak spiritual, so weak that we so easily give in to compromise without even thinking twice. When you read Genesis chapter 12, is that a believer who does not have an altar will compromise more easily. Because at the place where you meet God, there are certain things that are emphasized and re-emphasized in your heart, that they become convictions. They become serious convictions you cannot be able to give up on. When Abraham left the altar, he went down to Egypt, a place of compromise. He could give away his wife for the sake of receiving donkeys and being treated well. Altar keeps you well. Bring everything to the altar. Let it be consumed. And then allow God now to come and form you. Meet with him. That's the place of altar. It's a place of sacrifice and a place of worship. Before you get to worship, you must die. There is something in you that must be committed completely, that God comes and take full presence and reigns. Hapo, your convictions are formed. That is the place where you build convictions, that you are able to resist certain things. some traits of compromises. One, they have casual commitments. They have casual commitments. They say, nitakuja kuserve, they will not appear. This is why marriages can't stand. Because when you stand to make vows before that person, ni jokes, ni emotions, ile excitement ya kudance iko kwa roho yako, unasema I will love you, I will cherish you. Unajua ni excitement too. When you go to the house, now the test begins. Ni mangumi daily. Because commitment was never there. It was casual. You are very ready to walk out of that commitment because your heart was never there from the first. Completely. We take the nature of Christ. And you know what Jesus is? Jesus is referred to as the Word because he is as good as his word. When he speaks, when God speaks something, it is sure. You can take it to the bank. You are certain he is able to keep it. And he entrusts us to have the same nature, not to make casual commitments. Number two, they're full of excuses and they are very ready to quit. Excuses are signs of people who are not ready to take up responsibility. Number three, such people hate and resist correction. They hate and they resist correction. Commitment does not mean perfection, but it means someone who is ready to pick up his mistake, learn from it, and walk ahead. But a person who resists correction is a person whose heart is full of compromise. Number four, they trivialize sin. Wana reduce dhambi sana. Tusikwe kitu kimchezo. It is just a song. Sin is so highly trivialized. It is just an affair. Hata we didn't touch. It was just an affair. It is trivialized to make it so little and so easy that you are able to do it without even conviction at all. This is what most people do, and there is an attitude that you can always repent. Wefanya tu, suta repent. Suta go back. God is gracious. You just repent. That is an attitude of a compromise. Ready to turn and to fall into any kind of sin. Finally, they despise highly the promises of God. The cup that you have, none of you knows your cup, by the way. Every day it keeps unfolding. You don't know what God has in store for you the days to come. But what will keep you going on in the journey is the commitment and the joy of knowing him in that place of the secret place. Commit. Make your own journey to commit. That is the only way we'll be able to strengthen ourselves in this walk of salvation. It is a journey we have begun. But yet, this is the truth. Majority are going to fall in the desert as dead. Just as the same journey from Egypt to Canaan. Some are going to, because of unbelief, their bodies will be scattered in the desert.